Welcome to Crown Bees. This is all about harvesting. It's our favorite time of the year just to kind of discover, man, who's been nesting inside our reeds or paper tubes or wood trays. We're going to be going slowly. We're going to be taking lots of different angles. I've got inside with me. This is Julie.
Hi.
Julie is the
I'm marketing.
Yeah, and she's going to be flipping cameras around, so it's going to be hopefully fun. Okay.
And if you have questions, please put them down in the comments.
I will answer them as we flow through there. So first of all, the big question is, why do we say you should be harvesting? All right. Long time ago, before humans showed up, you had old dead trees just in your yard, and these bigger cavity nesting bees would nest up here and then kind of nest down there, and the pests had a tough time moving from one to the other. But we humans, we know that now, bees will go into these nesting holes. When we pull everything tight in a whole pile, man, the pests can just move through. And so I don't think we'll see many pests. We're not opening a lot of things out today, but there's all sorts of just uh, things attracted to a lot of pollen and nectar, a lot of grub that are inside there are mason bees during the early summer, or just bees. And so all of these things, if you leave them to where nature runs it, pests will shut down a lot of the bees. And if you do nothing the following year, the bees will exit out of these nesting holes, leaving a lot of the pests behind. Pollen mites, there's carpet beetles, all these things will be in there. The bees don't care. They're going to go back and reuse these holes. And essentially, over a period of years, the bees are just basically feeding pests until ultimately there's nothing left but just pests. Your nesting holes will be mudded over, but nothing opens up in the spring. So if you want to go experiment with this, go take just a little felt pen and just mark over the tops of all your little pieces of mud and see which one opens up, which one doesn't open up. That'll give you a clue.
And Dave, what do we say about bee houses that are poorly constructed, poorly designed, with glued in bamboo and drilled blocks? What do we say with all of that?
Crown Bees has learned that we make sure that our products, that you can actually open things up. Drilled blocks of wood, it's best if you just leave these outside for the whole season, and in the spring, you are going to put these into like a bee guard bag, seal things up tight, and then as the bees that are still in there exit, they'll crawl up in the bag daily. You'll just open the bag up, you can see the bees go, and they won't be able to, closing it up, the bees won't be able to nest back in these old wood trays or whatever you're trying to pull from. It's just a one-way path. And of course, you're going to have something healthier above so that the bees can actually go in there and use it.
So like a forced evacuation.
Yes. Move day for bees.
Yeah, eviction. Eviction notice.
Those ones, right, exactly.
Yeah. And okay. What do we talk about when it comes to bamboo?
So with bamboo, there's a lot of product coming in from shores that the bamboo is glued in. I would, if you can, break these out, and we'll show you. We've got a tool, our reed splitter can go through the bamboo. It's not easy. It's actually pretty. It does allow you to go through the bamboo, and you can go a very arduous process to at least do this. Or if that's too much trouble, same thing as the wood tray. Put them in the whole structure into a bee guard bag and have them move from something that's unhealthy for bees to something that is healthy for bees. Okay. Awesome. So what tools? I think let's look at what tools we need to
So let's do this because apparently we lost sound.
Ah.
We were playing with the sound earlier, Dave, weren't we?
Well, we were. All right. So thank you, people who are doing this.
Yes, thank you.
Again, we'll just go back through. When you're playing with tube and inserts, we're using scissored sometimes, or what we did just a bit ago was put everything into just straight bead tube or tube and inserts. We just put them into warm water about 20 minutes ago. So either one of these paths, scissors or that, we'll try them both. This is the preferred method. You can do hundreds of these. The cocoons are waterproof, not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
With reeds, we'll open those up by hand, or we have a reed splitter. Even a knife sometimes works. We did that a long, long time ago. With trays, as we're opening these things up, we've got a cool little cocoon comb, makes this thing faster, but even something at home like a screwdriver will work. We're going to wind up washing things. So a little tub of water here is going to be just tossing cocoons into there. My little tray here is what we're going to be using just to put all the debris. There's going to be some fun things dropping into something. Okay. And then later on, as we're washing this water, we're going to go into a sink. We've got a colander out there. And lastly, we're going to be just drying things on a paper towel. We use Clean Bee to get rid of things on the outside of the cocoons. And then lastly, we're storing things in a humidity. Okay, so there's the equipment. Let's now go see what's going on. So we're going to go with just the tube and inserts. And a word of caution, we actually played around at our building beforehand, and we have both leaf cutter bees. These are actually little leaf bits that are on the outside versus mud using thing. The leaf cutter bees are best pulled aside and put in for the following spring to harvest. But since we put these things, this is a larger hole, I am going to open this thing up, and on the back side, it's actually mud. Okay.
So
I
mud and
mud. The
okay.
mason bees stopped partway through here, and then went into the leaf cutter on the tail end. So if I do want to preserve my mason bees, I'm going to open this thing up, and this cocoons would be same thing. This has again a mud using end, so that says to me, in fact, we'll open this thing up. I'm using a pair of sharp scissors.
Is there a way you could preserve both?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So as I'm just taking a little snip out of the insert. This is a spiral wound piece. And as I go through here, we can see here's a whole bunch of leaf cutter little pieces that all fall apart. And as I drop on down, I'm going to keep on going. Leaf cutter, leaf cutter. I'm not doing any damage to anything. Leaf cutter.
Wow.
Yeah, so these are little individual cells that break apart. I'm going to pull this pieces out before I wash them. As I get back to, I don't know how deep.
Wow.
Okay,
oh my
leaf
goodness.
Cutter, leaf cutter, leaf cutter. And just.
It's going to be one cocoon, isn't it?
Nope. Actually, that was leaf cutter all the way through. So
okay.
Bad example. But
this is how we learn, right?
Yes, this is how we learn. And on the back side of here, again, I'm going to just snip the end. And I find back over here. So here is mason bee.
Okay.
Mason bee. This is pure pollen and nectar. Okay.
You're gonna eat it, aren't you?
I'm gonna eat it, but you can't see it on camera.
Yeah, we've got the camera on. He's
gonna
eat it.
Okay.
I've seen him do it. Now you are.
This is the nectar taste in here is just phenomenal. Okay. It's a yummy little flavor. You'll try it. It's actually a good thing to do. So as I go through here, I found a couple little mason bees, and so this is just be careful that you're going to have both mason bees and leaf cutters. If you left things out, you probably don't have this situation. As we're going into this tub of water, the glue has dissolved, and look how easy it is just to, we do this here at our company all the time. So I'm just taking these pieces out, and it's super easy just to leave the cocoons in there floating and just walk on through. So this is absolutely a preferred method. Even if you had just straight bee tube, which we don't recommend, parasitic wasps can get through these pretty easily. But if you went just straight into a bee tube, again, the glue dissolves. If you left it in maybe 25 minutes, much easier than trying to hand wash.
How long to soak the tubes?
And I'm saying using warm water, typically 10 to 15 minutes. And if it doesn't open it up, then maybe 25 minutes. The cocoons can stay in, they're waterproof. They can float in water for an hour, 45 minutes. So just, you can be impatient and start opening things ahead of schedule, or just wait. And so this is the process that we think for paper tubes. Let everything dissolve.
Betsy thinks it says that the pollen tastes like squash or pumpkin to her.
Good. Okay.
It's not chicken.
Yeah. So I just want, sometimes the bee flies in a yard, I don't know what it gets to, 1 in 40 maybe, just tastes horrible. So if you get one, it's just because the bee got in some pollen that just wasn't good. But normally there's nectar behind it. So I mean, it's always a get to do until you hit that one. It's like, okay. So this is tube and insert. We really recommend floating things in the water. If not, then using a pair of scissors and slowly unraveling things, it would be the way to go.
And again, because mason bee cocoons are waterproof.
They are waterproof.
Not the leaf bees.
The leaf bees. Okay. So let's move these out of the way. Okay. So now let's shift into, let's get my little leaf cutters out of there. One of the things that I didn't do beforehand is, do you have, this is a cocoon finder, and it's a gauge that you can actually make yourself. When I find a tube that I look down the beginning, I look down there, I don't see anything. If I use my little tester, if I go, oops, all the way to, that's where it stopped, we can pull this thing out and say, sure enough, you can see there's this little marking here where it's kind of slightly brown maybe, but there is a cocoon on the backside. So that's what I found there. In this other piece, I'm going down there and it completely disappeared. So sure enough, I go out here and right, there's nothing at the end. So this can just be a source of finding whether or not you have cocoons in the backside. So with reeds that do have a back to them, all of our reeds have a node. And surprisingly, if you're out there just putting open tubes that have no back to them, typically a bee knows that she's going to go in there. My females, my first eggs are females. I know that they're unsafe. They typically won't use an open-ended tube. There are people that sell that out there. It's like, we don't recommend them. Always things with a back into it. So I can't see down, some things are easy to find. So here's, end, and I've got two that I'm going inside here. Sure enough, there's probably, I would say, no, there's nothing in here. I'm not going to waste. This is still good. I'm going to use this for next year. And reuse it. And clearly there's something down here. So as I open that, I'm going to find mason bee cocoons. So this is a cocoon finder that we think is valuable.
Sure. We've got 2 questions, Dave. I've heard, this is from Melissa at Planet B, which you'll meet later. I've heard you dilute a little bleach with the water. Is that not a best practice? That
is not. We'll talk about that later on. Okay.
And Tom, are you going to tell us what to do with those leaf cutters?
Yes, we will.
Them? Yeah, you mostly have leaf cutters.
So actually, awesome. and Tom, when you come across, as you're opening these things up, if you come across leaf bee stuff, so broken leaves, or you'll find one cell has a large larva in it. That's either a summer bee or a summer wasp. And you're going to set those aside. And I would typically put those in just a container, a Tupperware container, and toss them in the garage. So
Not with water.
Not with water. But let those just, you don't need to keep those. We recommend keeping your cocoons in the fridge. Your mason bee, spring mason bees, we put those in the fridge. We'll talk about it at the end. For the leaf bees and other things you find that kind of probably are more summer, we're just separating those and leaving those for some discussion in spring, and we'll talk about that in the spring. Okay, so to open up reeds, back in the day, I had let's take a
back in the day.
Well, back in,
when you walked to school uphill both ways in the snow.
Yes, exactly. I would take a butter knife, and it's a little hard, but I'd kind of push it down the middle, and
this is not the node end, correct?
This is the open end.
Yes.
And then I could kind of peel it apart and get to cocoons and stuff inside. So here's a whole bunch of cocoons. I'm finding, as we go through here, quick little discovery, you'll find that there's the mud, that little door. As the mason bee laid her pollen and nectar inside her, she places her egg. She then seals that chamber with muddy materials, the one bee that we're playing with today. Other bees in the world use tree resin, chewed up leaf bits, pebbles, bee saliva. There's just a variety of species. Grass typically is more your beneficial wasps.
Oh.
Okay, so you'll find a whole bunch of things in there. And as you are just scooping things out, boy, these guys are, I'm just tossing everything into my little tray, okay? So the only problem as I'm doing this, sometimes my my reed doesn't go exactly what I want it to. So the other path that we recommend is using a, we call this the reed splitter. And I'm using the node end, and I am just cutting a little bit to the back part, and then typically your whole reed is splitting in half. And so I'm now getting back to.
I want to try one. This is my first time.
So cut it there, and then rotate the spread it apart. You're gonna like that.
Oh, like that.
Yeah, there you go, and it opens up.
Oh my goodness!
There you go inside it.
Wow.
Little small tip. I broke a part of the reed. Yeah, it buzzes up.
I know it does.
I broke apart one piece of the reed, and I use this to watch this, just to scrape out my cocoons. You could use a screwdriver. You can use pieces, but we're just scraping things out. So as you go through the reeds, it's relatively very easy. So,
I wish you could see.
It's fine. Okay. So there's how to handle reeds, and then lastly, wood trays.
And the reeds, where are they from? What kind of reeds are they?
These are Phragmites, and so it's a lake bed reed that crack open easy. When you're trying to do bamboo, the reed, you're still going on the node with the bamboo. It's just very hard. So, but you can, these are pretty good. You can use them. Lastly, when we're going with wood trays, now we're not using wood trays raising bees around here, so this is pure fictitious, but I am I'm saving the rubber bands, the backing, and our, so as I open this thing up, I'm gonna open it up, and there's two sides. There's a, for our 8mm trays and a 6mm side. Fit the side that fits, that goes in there, and I'm putting the lettering down. And so I'm going through, I'm scooping underneath the cocoons and getting things out. Now, what you'll find over a period of years is that there's a thing called chalk brood. And it's this gross little spore that you'll find in there a moon-shaped typically gray, blacky, something that when you do see that, that's a big deal. That's it's Ascafera is the scientific name. But this little spore that when you do nothing, uh, the little spore stays within the wood tray. As a mason bee works her way out, she gets the spore spread through this tray. It's now out into the flowers, so she's carrying it up. It's on the outside of the bee house. So when she's out here finding a different hole to use, she's going back down there, putting this little spore into these trays.
Sure.
So while trays are one cost and you can use them for years, over a period of time, this spore just spreads unless you're careful. And so what we do when you do find that spore, let's just say it was right here, we use Clean Bee, and we know that Clean Bee kills this chalkroot spore. And so you would be spraying just that little spot there. And I, where my little screwdriver went, I'm going back and forth just to make sure that my tray has all of the spore gone. And I would be doing the other side of the tray in that exact same spot. That way you're pretty much treating that spore, and that's where Clean Bee really comes in handy. So you're just going to plow through the tray, and when you're done with the tray, you can clean them with a stiff kitchen brush. I wouldn't get them wet. Wood does kind of warp.
People have been asking in Facebook and things like that, do you get them wet?
Right.
But don't, unless you're using the Clean Bee.
Correct. And so once, if you have rinsed them lightly, it's okay. But I would use the Clean Bee sparingly.
Okay.
And then when you're done, just band everything back up, put on the blocker and the cardboard, and just leave the whole thing ready to go for the spring. So that's handling trays.
Could you tell us why the one side looks all like there was fire on it? Can you tell us about that?
Yes. When we cut our trays, these are in big, long boards, so they're 10-foot boards. We're going through, and we are cutting each board at 6 inches. We're pulling out the ones that have knots. Those are our farm grade boards, and those that are perfect have, we use for our premium boards that most people are buying. When we're done, there's splinters on the ends, and so we are going to take just a huge. We've got a video out there.
Yeah, I'll link.
Flame on it. We get rid of those splinters, but also we've learned that again, the bees evolved to find a hole up high and down below, and nowhere in nature do you have something like this. Okay, it's a little confusing for the bees to find their nesting hole in a very uniform set of trays. Reeds, each reed is unique. The bees fly into it. Paper tubes, where you kind of have them cattywampus, and you maybe put 6 between them, a little better. When we have our wood trays, we have the wayfinders that we put in them to make it a little more colorful. And even now we're thinking through just painting the ends with just a hodgepodge of colors. So that's why we have the ends looking like that.
Yep.
Okay. So we have now.
Oh, and we do have a question again from Melissa. How often do you see chalkroot? Is it common?
For the chalkroot, again, is a spore that is aligned with just that one bee species. So out in your yard, you've got a whole bunch of different Ascafera is these different flavors of chalkroot. From one impacts bumblebees, one impacts sweat bees, one impacts all these different species are floating through there. And as honeybees are spreading the pollen through the yard, or mason bees, that Ascafera, all these different species is spreading through the yard. Okay. If you've got a lot of mason bees over a period of time, you've got more likely this Ascafera, this chalkroot everywhere. And so what we're suggesting is that it's something to be aware of, probably no more than that. Be aware that it's there. On the East Coast, there's probably more the Japanese orchard bee. When that was imported from Japan back in the 70s and 80s, they didn't bring with them their chalkroot. that we have seen yet. So in general, the corner fronds, Osmia corner fronds, is this Japanese orchard bee, typically doesn't have this chalk root. It's more the blue orchard Osmia lignaria bee that has it.
Sure. And we've got one more from the Westminster Bee Club.
Mhm.
Hello. FYI, my research has shown that the chalkroot that impacts honeybees is not the same species of chalkroot that impacts native bees.
Very fair. Yeah. So whether it's foul brood or American foul brood, all these things, that each species has their own piece. And what impacts a honeybee doesn't impact a mason bee, the blue orchard. And what impacts a blue orchard might not impact the corner frond. So it's very specific, but it's a big deal. And we're aware of it. And so when you find it, clean it. Okay.
Mhm.
So we're back here, and typically there's going to be a mound of cocoons and debris and pollen mites. You're going to find pests in there, and it's all there. Just take this whole pile, and we're just tossing it into water. Okay.
Again, because they're waterproof.
They're waterproof, and in fact, I'm even well, heck, I'm going to go back over here and take all of this and pour all these together. When I just did that, you'll notice that the mud stayed at the bottom. Okay, I've got those cocoons there, so I've got a pile here. And we're going to go shift cameras. I'm going to typically, as this bath here is in front of me, I'm just moving these with my hands, and I've got typically a lot of them. I'm just going back and forth. You can be pretty rough. There's a hard shell bee inside this that's, it's okay to move it back and forth. So when we're doing this, we're not trying to get my cocoons kitchen sink clean. We're just getting off the feces, kind of the mud, and I'm calling it good. Okay. Sure. A reason that working with Wisconsin State, they've helped us realize that there's just microbes on the outside of the cocoon shell. And if you take off, so as a mason bee is coming out in the springtime, she emerges from her little cocoon, she chews a hole out, and the microbes on the outside of that shell get onto her body as well. She's now getting this pile of microbes that match what she wants. She's getting it in the yard, she gets it everywhere. And as she's going back in, she's pushing off the microbes with the pollen. And the future bee, the egg and the larva that comes out there, as it's eating up that pollen, if it doesn't have microbes, it doesn't make it. Okay. So microbes are really important to have. And so we're trying to not get everything fastidiously clean. We're just trying to get off, the poop and the mud, just because I just don't want it. But I'm not getting everything off. This is why we don't have that light bleach, because that light bleach solution that we used to talk about a long time ago is killing that microbes. And so we're just water only, nothing more than that.
We've got a few questions before you head off.
Yep.
And going back to chalk brood, when you find chalk brood, do you throw it in the trash or squish them?
Chalk brood, I'm just throwing them in the trash. Okay. They're all dead. Not that big of a deal.
Okay. Are we going to talk about Houdini flies?
Thank you, somebody who sent Houdini flies from Europe about maybe 8 years ago to the Northwest and New York. It's a predator. It's a little fly that, as you open up your nesting materials, if you find a whole bunch of little eggs in larvae in one cell, and their frass, their poop, is big and curly, typically brown, medium brown, that's just a nasty pest that rather than throw into a compost pit, we're actually saying throw it down your garbage disposal. We need those things shredded. So when you find this, and those in the Northwest very much will find Houdini flies in the fall, you're finding the larva. If you don't do anything about it, or your neighbor who doesn't care allows these flies to come out, the only way to handle that fly in the spring is to, in the mornings, they're slow moving. You can smush them with your finger in the afternoons, maybe you can use a shop vac.
Yeah,
But
I've seen them do it.
Yeah. It is one of our predators that we just, and all it is, it's a kleptomaniac, or
Kleptomaniac. Kleptoparasite.
That one. That is just eating the pollen loaf in front of our bee, and it just survives nicely in symbiotic relationship with our mason bees. So when you find it, and those in the Northwest should find it, we're trying to get rid of this as best we can.
Sure.
Garbage disposal.
Yeah. Good question, Erica. And sorry you've lost 5% of
your... yeah. Sometimes people will lose all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nuclear lemons. Is warm water from the boiler safe to use, or should I be letting tap water warm up
instead? Good question. So if you're trying to get your inserts, just warm water. I don't really think it matters. Whether it's I think water is water. We're just trying to dissolve glue. When I'm washing my cocoons, cold water is all we're using. So whatever you're drinking, I just had that path. There's nothing, rainwater, distilled water, nothing magic.
And finally, Red Barn. I've heard that torching the trays lately will also kill the spores. Is this true?
True.
Okay. And
so we have tried, if you can bring the surface of your trays up to 150, 160 degrees, so hot to touch, I would go open face. I've cleaned everything out with my kitchen brush, and now I'm using a weed, weed burner or a propane torch. You're just going back and forth. It takes a little bit. There have been people that have put all of their open trays onto a cookie sheet and put the oven at broil. Okay. And don't burn your house down. So this is maybe not what the foolish. Yeah. But you could put them in there for 30 seconds. You're just trying to get, when you pull this tray out and they're hot to touch, then you've killed the predator that's there. So flip them over, do the other side. So a couple different paths is perfectly fine.
Yeah, and Herb Gerhardt, he's having a good time using a propane torch. So
yep.
Take it from him.
Okay. So now we're going to go take these cocoons, and I'm going to go move into
we're going to do a little flippy flop.
Give me a little session here.
So
colander that I'm pouring everything inside here. I can leave the mud in. I'm trying to get all my little cocoons. So everything is now in the bottom of my colander. And my point here is just to really just rinse it. And I'm just, moving this thing back and forth. A lot of times around here, we're leaving water in the sink. So it just kind of floats my cocoons in there. But just a lot of heavy water. Even a garden hose, wow, it sounds scary. I can do this outside, and I'm just getting things clean. And again, I'm not caring too much about getting this thing pristine clean, but just clean enough to get most of the mud's already out, and then I will carry this back.
Dave's heading back.
And there's a little water here. I'm just taking everything out, and I'm now looking at as I'm walking through. Look, there's a little bit of this is a dead larva. You can see this little shape here. It's not quite chalk broody, but this larva somehow caught a cold. I don't know what disease it got. It just didn't make it. But I'm taking these things out, and I'm taking anything off that just doesn't make sense there. And then now that I've got just cocoons that I want, let's just say I've handpicked through these things, so I've got the cocoons that I want.
This has to be the smallest harvest you've ever
done. This is. We work in the hundreds of thousands, but actually with our Bee Buyback program, where a lot of people send us in, we're getting hundreds of cocoons. So this is very similar. So I've got these here, And what we do at our, and we recommend that you do, these are wet. I'm not cooling them down yet or drying them off yet. I'm just spraying this a couple times with Clean Bee. And again, just spraying it. We've also learned this as both sides, just a couple little squirts. I'm not oversaturated. I'm just kind of doing things carefully, gently. We've learned that the product here, Clean Bee, that we use doesn't kill microbes, but it does knock off other diseases or viruses that might be on the outside of the cocoon. So I'm not being super kitcheny clean, but I am just being a little careful, and I'm not messing with the microbes.
Going back to using would a heat gun also work for using instead of a torch?
However you were heating your trays up, I could get real close to the sun. I don't know. You're doing, if you're just trying to keep the temperature up to maybe 150 or something like that. So some people even have little heat sensors that they can put on there. Go goof around. And if you don't find chalk brood, then maybe don't worry about this.
Yeah.
So
and then mentioning using Clean Bee for trays, we did, if you rewind a little bit, just using it specifically in the spot that you find it, and then also when you open it up,
right, so
that
both
you're
sides.
matching the same sides. So
and some people are using Clean Bee through all of their trays. That's a waste of a good product. I wouldn't. It's slightly expensive. I would just use it sparingly. This should last you a couple of years. So sparingly on your trays where you find chalk brood.
Little dab will do ya.
And then wow, that's old.
Sorry.
And then just here lightly on your cocoons. So now these things are relatively clean. I don't have to have them super dry. I'm now putting them into. If you put your bees outside, your temperatures are going to be high and low. Let me back up. When your mason bees finished developing, it's an adult bee in a cocoon. So this is probably late September, early October. Their fuel tanks, their stored fats in their abdomens and bodies is 100%. And that's what they're going to survive on, is that stored fats. Through the winter, they're just slowly sipping, depends on how warm it is. If it's warm, their metabolism is a little higher. They're going to be sipping those stored fats a little faster. If it's cold, they're going to be sipping it slower. And what you're looking for is we're trying to just preserve those stored fats. So over a period of time at a cold temperature, 35, 36, 37, constant in a fridge just keeps these their metabolism low. If you've got it outside and it hits 50s or 60s or 40s, it's okay. That's how nature works. But as we see global climate change messing with temperatures, some people have super late springs. If your spring is so late and your bees have been outside, or you in the springtime, maybe late winter, it's super warm. The bees might just come out and there's no pollen or nectar. So they're out of this balance, the phenology of pollen and bee, they're just out of balance. And so we've been doing this for a long time. Science does this. We're putting our cocoons straight into a humidity, and I'm just tossing the cocoons on there.
Somebody had a question yesterday. Somebody came into the store yesterday and asked, how many cocoons can you, how far can you fill that?
As far as you want to.
Really? Okay, because I wasn't sure.
When you fill this puppy up, I would always leave a whirlpool design, so it might be high on the edges. You could probably put 1,500 cocoons in here.
No kidding.
Yeah,
okay.
And then I'm now taking a teaspoon of water and just putting about a teaspoon of water into this, closing the humidity down.
You can see the little hole, the vent holes.
Got little vented holes. And so I'm now placing this into your refrigerator. Okay?
Anywhere in the fridge.
Anywhere in the fridge. So this acts as a crisper drawer. The only caution during so once a month, I would be checking in and just adding a little tablespoon of water. Sometimes sometimes, many times in a refrigerator, there's airborne spores from cheese or mold, but it's this mold spore that will get through these air vents. And if you see um, mold showing up on your cocoons, it's not the end of the world. We're just typically taking all the cocoons out, throwing them in clean water, spritzing them with Clean Bee does kill that mold spore. I would be at that point also washing my pads and this thing just in warm water, just in soapy warm water, just to get it clean again. And I would take the whole humidity and put them into just a lunch sack. Okay. And that way that airborne spore can't get into it again. Lunch sack would be, or even start that way.
I was just going to say, should you just start that way? Okay.
Okay. It's this easy. Just walk again through, get your tools, your trays out ahead of schedule. We're going to go out and open up all the nesting materials. So we've found the ones that we didn't want to open up. We can use them again for next year. We've now opened up using either warm bath for the inserts, or we've used our little reed splitter for the reeds. You go through your pile. You've just got a pile of cocoons. Toss them into the water. Mess them around. Rinse them off in a sink. Use a colander. However you want to do it. You're just trying to get the mud and the poop off, the feces off. And now I've got my cocoons are kind of clean. Mm-hmm. Rub them off in a paper, a paper towel, a rag, or whatever. And then now we're just, a little Clean Bee cleans them off and then into the fridge.
Awesome. Nuclear Lemons has another question.
Would a paper bag be fine as a cover? Go experiment. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you what to do. We're trying to keep the humidity level. Years ago, 15, 16 years ago, no, 17 years ago now, I had a cookie sheet that I was putting my cocoons on in a garage fridge. And springtime came around. I said, hey, girls, go out and do a thing. They were all dead. I dehydrated all of them. And so we then I created this little tiny, humidity. It's been around a while. It's nothing magical about it, but we're just trying to keep the humidity level up to maybe between 50 to 40 to 70, 80%, just right around there. And we've got a humidity gauge that'll help analyze that for you. But it's just trying to keep things humid and not moldy. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So tell us a little bit, you mentioned Buyback program. Tell us more about that.
So with
it's wrapping up.
Yep. With Buyback, what we've learned is there's a lot of bees out there being raised across North America. And we find people in Massachusetts that have too many cocoons. They mail them to us and we open them up, clean them up, and then we're either purchasing them for a price or we're giving them store credit, and they're able to then have just free reeds or free nesting materials in exchange for their bees. And so it's very good for them. We've got programs now where we are asking that some awesome nonprofits, one of them will meet here in Melissa with Planet Bee, we're using your excess reads in classroom settings to teach kids. Melissa, tell us what you do.
Oh, wait, hold on 1 second. We do have one question before we bring Melissa on.
Should you
add water throughout the winter?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you're adding water once a month, maybe a tablespoon, maybe 2 tablespoons, but it's all you just don't want to dehydrate your cocoons. Okay, so Melissa, hi.
Awesome. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, fine. Melissa.
Cool. Yeah, I am happy to talk about how Planet Bee Foundation uses the reeds that have been so graciously donated by Dave, by all of you beekeepers out doing the important work in making sure that these bees are protected, and not just the bees, but the predatory or the friendly wasps against the predatory insects. I have like 2 slides. Can I share my screen, or will that make the technology?
Yeah. What do we do with those bees that you get?
Yeah. So typically the bees that are donated are used at in-person events. Now, I can speak to how they're used in the Philadelphia area, which is where I'm based, as well as in the California area. So those are kind of our two like pinpoints in the United States as where we do this in-person work. So typically we will go to schools or youth-focused clubs, or we'll go into a community events. And I'm talking everything from the Philadelphia Flower Show. We do events at Stanford. We do events with individual schools and classrooms. So we really, the scale is everything from potentially a garden group of 5 kids all the way up to a tabling event with thousands of people that come through. But basically, when we take these bees in person, you can see that kids see them up in person. So let's say I open up some of the reeds before the event and some of them are no longer living. I reuse those and I put those in observation containers that kids can see. And it's really cool because very infrequently do kids get the opportunity to actually see bees up close. Then there are opportunities in the spring that I actually take the reeds to schools or to groups, and we look at the bees emerge and we listen to the reeds, because I don't know if anyone has ever heard them trying to break out of the cocoons, but it's this really like light, gentle tapping.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this incredible opportunity for kids to be able to practice observation skills and really, really listen to what they're seeing and look at what is happening as these bees emerge for the first time. Then we get some brave kids that even want to hold them. So I will say we're doing a lot of like demystifying around like bees aren't scary. We just have to be, very gentle and approach them with respect. And when we show different forms of their life cycle. And it's cool when you crack open a reed and you can see the egg, the larva, the pupa, all the way to the adult bee. Certainly it doesn't mean that those bees made it, but educationally, we try to make everything a positive experience. And then there are times where we actually do releasing of the bees. So I saw someone asked a question about leafcutter bees, and I can say that we've been donated both mason bees in the spring and leafcutter bees in the summer. So this is actually an event that we did at a organization in Harrisburg, where we released some of these leafcutter bees right near some of the native bee houses.
Nice.
And I'll tell you, since I am a teacher, I try my best to take a little bit and use it as many times. So when we have these in-person events, a lot of times we can't safely release them. So then they have a second job. They will either be released near already installed homes. So that could be everything from like my backyard, where then I'm documenting their progress, or to our partners that in the Philadelphia area. We have some schools that we work with. We also work with master gardeners in Philadelphia. Then there are some bees that I take my camera and I take photos of. So here we can see, this is not my image, but I have images like this where we have all of the life cycle that allows kids to then see it virtually, even if they're not seeing these bees in person. And then finally, and the most exciting, is that a lot of these bees are also used in future piloting programs. So programs that are in the development, in the works. And I can tell you, it is an exciting, exciting time for native bees in the educational scene. Honeybees have had their time in the spotlight, but I'm telling you, the enthusiasm from schools and organizations around really making sure we protect these pollinators, it's there. So I thank anyone who has donated their bees, because I can tell you, we use them. And yeah, we've only had great success. So I want to thank Crown Bees for the partnership. Planet Bee is very grateful.
Thanks, Melissa. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Great. That's it.
Westminster Bee Club. They've got another. I
found one year that if you set the leaf-colored bees out too early, they get attacked by predatory wasps. Best to use pest prevention bags and release them as they emerge.
Yeah, absolutely.
True. And part of this discovery of the summer leaf bee, we'll talk about that in the deep spring, of how to incubate yourself. And watch out. There's, when you put a lot of little good guys in all pollen, a lot of larvae in one place, it is an attraction to nature to go close that down. And the predatory wasp and the leafcutter part goes right, instead of through the sidewalls, they go right down the end. It's like, and this is the joy of in our backyards, as we're trying to increase the food supply that we want to have raised, or have more flowers. We're bringing in a bee, or helping manage bees that, nature says don't have too many. And maybe if we have a lot of food, this is why we want to have more bees. And so it's just be aware of how nature works, and we're just trying to do this in a loving manner. So
is this being recorded? This is actually going to be housed on our YouTube channel, so it'll always be there. We have B-mail. What is our B-mail?
B-mail is twice a month. We say, hey, it's October. Do this now. Hey, it's January. Start considering these steps. So we're when you sign up for B-mail, we're not selling this to anybody. It's just a path that we can help you be more successful, so that ultimately you have too many cocoons.
Right.
Send them to us so that we can then share them with more people. So it's this one big collaborative event that you are able to participate with.
And I'll put that link down below.
All right.
And is there anything else? Do we have any services we want to talk about?
We have opened as of 2024. If harvesting sounds like too much for you, you can go actually ask us to do all the harvesting, and we'll open things up, clean off your bees, hold your bees for you. And then in the spring, you're going to tell us when to send those back. And included this is our sending these bees back to you FedEx 2-day. So we can do this for you. We think not everyone wants to get their hands dirty, and not everyone has that ability to open things up. So let's help you do it. So there's a little fee for that, and that's a new program we do have to offer.
Yep. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Dave, for showing us everything. And if you ever have questions, you can start to chat with us on our website or email us at info@crownbees.com. Awesome. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.